Hello, this is Mr. Stansbury. I'm going to take you through the 13D problems. All right, let's start with number 1. Copy and complete the following table to find the value of deep fryer purchased by Efficient Chip Shop for $15,000, depreciated by 15% each year for 3 years. So, what do you want to do? Age 0. So when you first bought it, it was worth $15,000. After the first year, it's depreciated by 15%. So you got to take 15% of 15,000, which is 2250, and you can just simply do that by doing 15,000 times 0.15, and that gives us our 2250. Okay, so then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to subtract off that, subtract the 2250 from that to get our new book value, right? Okay, so let's do 15,000 minus 2250, and that gives us the new value after 1 year of use is 12,750. Okay, and then we just keep doing the same thing. So now we're going to do 15% of the current value after the first year. So that's going to now be, instead of 15,000, 12,750. Okay, so then we take our 12,750, multiply that by 0.15, and that gives us 19,1250. So we're going to take off 19,1250 to get our new value. So let's do 12,750 minus our answer. And that gives us 10,837 and 50 cents. And then do the same thing one more time. Let's see, actually we forgot to write down our 1912 here, 1912.50. Alright, and then now we're going to do 15% of this 10,837.50, and that is going to give us something else. So take that number, multiply it by 0.15, 1625.63. Right, and then we're going to take away that 1625.63 from the book value of the year before that, and then away we go. So we're at 108.37.50. Subtract our answer, and we get 92.11.86. Oops, not point. 86. So at the end of 3 years, it's going to be worth $9,211. All right. So then let's see. Calculate how much depreciation can be claimed as a tax deduction by the shop in year 1. So that's just going to be all these numbers here. So that's just going to be 2250. Year 2, it's going to be 1912.50, and then in year 3 it's going to be $1,625.63. All right. Okay, that is number 1. Okay. And before we move on, that really should be a 7 there, off by a penny. Sorry. All right. Next one here. Number 2. Find the future value of a truck which is purchased for $225,000 if it depreciates at 25% per annum for 5 years. Okay, so really we can keep using the same growth formula that we've been using before, which is A equals P times 1 plus R over N to the NT. Okay, so in this case here we're finding the future value. That's the A. So that's going to be A equals P. The original amount is $225,000. Must be a semi or something like that. And then we're going to do 1. And then now, since it's depreciating, it's going down by 25% each year instead of going up by 25%. So we're going to do 1 minus the rate, which is 0.25. And then divided by the number of compound periods per year. Pretty much anytime you're seeing anything about depreciation here, the n is pretty much always going to be 1. Depreciation is, rarely do you see it calculated any differently than just yearly. Okay, so it's going to be 1, and then there's going to be 1 times n is the number of, t is the number of years, so that's to the 5th. Okay, so all we're going to do is figure out what that is. Alright, so let's plug that in. 225,000 times 1 minus 0.25 all to the 5th power. So it's going to be, after 5 years, it's going to be worth 53,393.55. So it went down a lot, right? That used to be worth a lot more than that. Just double checking the numbers that we have here. Yep, that looks good. Okay, and then the next question that's asking us is, by how much did it depreciate? So if it's worth this much at the end, started as that much, we just subtract the two from each other to figure out how much its depreciation is. So start with our 225,000, subtract the ending amount, which is 53,393.55, and that'll be what we get for our total depreciation, how much money it lost, basically. So 225,000 minus our answer, and we get a lot of depreciation. 171,606.45. Oops, I already forgot. 606.45. So it depreciated by $171,000. It's a lot of depreciation. All right, let's keep trucking. Next one, number 3. If I buy a car for $32,400 and keep it for 3 years, what will its value be at the end of the period, given that its annual depreciation rate is 20%? So same thing. A equals original investment is $32,400. All times 1 minus, since it's depreciating, 1 minus 0.2 over 1 all time, and then it's to the 1 times, how many years? 3 years. All right, so let's calculate that out. 32,400 times 1 minus 0.2 all to the 3rd power. So at the end of the 3 years, it's worth $16,588.80. What was that again? $165.88. So worth $16,000 at the end of those 3 years. So that thing depreciated fast. All right. By how much did it depreciate? Well, let's do the same thing. Start with our 32,400. Subtract our end amount, 16,588.80, and we will figure that out. Okay, so 32,400 minus our answer gives us 15,811.20. Oops, one too many ones. So depreciated by $15,000. It's a lot of depreciation. All right. Okay. Next one, number 4. Printing press costing 250,000 pounds was sold 4 years later for 80,000 pounds. At what yearly rate did it depreciate in value? So we can keep using our same formula. We're just going to plug in. We just have different information now. So we know that we end up at 80,000 pounds. right? And then we started off at 250,000 pounds. And we know that it's 1 minus whatever the rate is, and that's what we're trying to figure out. 1 minus the rate over 1, all to the 1 times, and that was sold 4 years later, right? So we want to try to get this R by itself. So let's see, first thing here, this $250,000 is being multiplied by this, so let's divide both sides by $250,000. Okay, and that gives us, divided by 250, gives us 0.32. So that means it's worth, what, 32% of what it was originally? And that was over 4 years. So it's going to be 1, let's do 1 minus R, all to the 4th power. So again, we want to keep peeling back the layers until we get R all by itself. So let's take, we got to get rid of that 4th power. So we have to take the 4th root of that 4th power. So then we, over here, we just have 1 minus R. And then over here, it's going to be whatever the 4th root of 0.32 is. All right, so do 4th. Let's see, in here we got to do math. That's the x root. So we're doing the 4th root of 0.32. And that gives us 0.752, we'll call it. All right, and then let's see, let's subtract 1 from both sides. We get negative R equals, so let's see, subtract 1. We get negative 0.248, we'll call it. And that's negative R, so then positive R has to equal 0.248, which means that the rate is 24.8%. It loses every year. All right? Okay. All right, next one. Okay, number 5. Four-wheel drive vehicle was purchased for $45,000 and sold for $28,500 after 2 years and 3 months. Find the annual rate of depreciation. So, same idea here. So what we got to do is we've got our end amount is at $28,500. Beginning amount is $45,000, and then we're going to do 1 minus the rate, and again it's going to be divided by 1 because it's annual rate of depreciation, so let's leave it as R, all to the, and now it's 2 years and 3 months, so we have to figure out how many years that is. So it's going to be 2.3 months, 3 over 12 is 0.25, so it's 2.25 years. Okay, so first thing, divide both sides by 45,000. All right, and then we get 1 minus R to the 2.25 is going to equal, let's see, 28,500 divided by 45,000 gives us 0.63. Repeating, right? And then now we have to get rid of that 2.25 power, so we have to take the 2.25 root of both sides, which I know sounds strange, but it works just fine here on the calculator. So we do 2.25. Again, depends on how your calculator does it. This is the way these 83s have to work. So you put the root in, put the x, and then we're going to take it of the, let's do of the answer. All right, and that gives us 0.8162, so let's do 816 equals 1 minus R. All right, so subtract 1 from both sides. We get negative R, excuse me, equals, so we get negative 0.184. All right, and then so the positive rate is going to be 0.184 or 18.4%. 7.5% each year. Okay? All right, let's move on to our last problem here. Number 6, Taxation Office allows industrial vehicles to be depreciated at 7.5% each 6 months. What would be the value in 2 years' time of the vehicles currently worth $240,000? So, here we go. So now this one's a little different because now you've got your depreciation is 7.5% every 6 months. Okay, so that just happens. It loses 7.5% every 6 months. So we can work with that. So our amount is going to end up being, we start with $240,000. All times 1 minus the rate, which is 0.075. Okay, and then now, even though it's every 6 months, we're not going to put that over 2 for the n, because again, it's depreciating 7.5% every 6 months. It's not depreciating 7.5% biannually, meaning that it's going to be like when the interest is compounded twice a year, it's depreciating 7.5% each 6 months. So we don't have to actually put that over 2. We just leave it over 1. But now we are going to want to know how many times it depreciates, and since we have each 6 months, that's going to be 2 times per year, and it's for 2 years' time. That means it's going to depreciate 4 different times. Okay? So just basically look at how many 6-month periods are there in 2 years, and there's 4 of them. Okay? So now we should be able to put that in here. So we've got $240,000 times 1 minus 0.075, all to the 4th power, and we get 175,702.59. 175,702.59. I'm trying to see if I can remember all those numbers. 175,702.59. Okay, so that's how much it would be worth after 2 years' time. And then part B, by how much did they depreciate? So again, you start with the original $240,000 and subtract off the 175,702.59. That's a 5, and we get our depreciation. So let's do 240,000 minus our answer, and we get that depreciated by 64,297.41. All right, 64,297.41. So that's how much it depreciated by over that 2-year span. Okay. All right. That is it. If you have any other questions, please ask in class. Thanks.